You've probably heard Azstarys described as the Vyvanse of Focalin. And that comparison, it's almost right. But there's one part of it that almost nobody explains clearly. And once you see it, it completely changes how you think about both medications. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what's really going on here, who Azstarys actually makes sense for, and who's better off staying on Focalin, and whether this is a real upgrade, or just a more expensive version of the same medicine. And who am I to differentiate a compelling mechanism from clever marketing? My name is Dr. Sulman Aziz Mirza, triple board certified in adult psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatry, and addiction medicine. And until Big Pharma decides to sponsor this channel, you know I got no problem telling it how it is. Before any of this comparison makes sense, you need to understand one thing. Azstarys and Focalin are built on the exact same active ingredient, dexmethylphenidate. Same drug. So if the drug is the same, what's actually different? It's the delivery. And that one difference, that's where everything changes. This is the point where people either go, oh, now I get it, or they completely miss what's actually happening. So think of it like this, a musical concert. You've got your opening act and who you really paid to go see. Same stage, same speakers, but they play very different roles in how the night unfolds for you. Azstarys is built the same way. About 30% of it hits right away. That's your opening act. No delay, no modification, just standard dexmethylphenidate kicking in within about 30 minutes or so. You're up, you're functional, you're in it. But the other 70%, that's where things start to separate a bit. Because that portion, the prodrug, dexmethylphenidate, has to be activated by your body first to become dexmethylphenidate, which means it doesn't hit all at once. It releases gradually, smoother, steadier, more controlled across the day. That's your main act. It stays on the stage longer. And instead of peaking and crashing, it stretches things out to around 13 hours. Now, if that sounds familiar, it should. This is the same core idea behind Vyvanse or lisdexamfetamine. Your body controls the release, not the capsule. And that's what smooths the curve. That's what lowers the misuse potential. And that's why the comparison actually holds up. It's not just as a metaphor, but mechanistically. Now compare that to Focalin XR. Focalin XR uses a bead system, half immediate release, half delayed release. And to be clear, it's a good system. It works for a lot of people, but it creates a very different experience, which we'll get to in just a bit. So yes, this mechanism is genuinely different, but here's the part most people skip. Different doesn't automatically mean better. Now here's the part that actually matters most in this entire comparison. And if you miss this, the rest of it gets confusing fast. Azstarys is not stronger than Focalin XR. It's smoother. And that sounds like a small difference until you see what that actually looks like over a full day. Because most people walk into this expecting more power, more intensity, and that's not what this is. This is about consistency. Focalin XR gives you 2 peaks. You feel that first wave, then a second push, and then it drops. I've had patients tell me the morning felt perfect. They felt locked in, focused, exactly what they needed. And then by 3 p.m., it's like someone flipped a switch. Irritable, foggy, done. That drop-off can be a cliff. And here's the key insight. That's not a dosing problem. That's the shape of the medication. Azstarys changes that shape. Instead of the peaks and the crash, you get a gradual rise, sustained coverage, and then a slow taper. No hard stop, just a quieter fade. And for the right patient, that difference is everything. Now, let's make this practical. Duration. Focalin XR usually gives you about 8 to 10 hours. Azstarys stretches that closer to 13 hours. That doesn't sound dramatic initially until you map it onto real life. You take your medicine maybe 7:30 in the morning, Focalin XR wears off around 3:30, maybe 4, which is right when homework starts, right when structure matters a little bit more. And that's where things fall apart. Or where you end up adding a booster dose just to get through the evening, which can sometimes throw off sleep or appetite for dinner. Azstarys closes that gap. Those extra hours aren't just numbers. They're the difference between holding it together and losing the rest of the day. Now, let's come back and compare that to Vyvanse, because this is where people get tripped up. Vyvanse gives you that long, smooth tail, but the trade-off is that slow start. Sometimes that's an hour, sometimes longer. Azstarys fixes that. You get that extended coverage, and you're functional within about 30 minutes or so. So you're not choosing between fast and long, you're getting both. Now let's talk about side effects, because this is where things get a little bit more nuanced. Dexmethylphenidate tends to be a bit cleaner than standard methylphenidate. Less irritability, less appetite suppression, so Azstarys carries that same advantage. But there is a trade-off. 13 hours cuts both ways. If you take it too late, you're lying in bed at midnight wondering why your brain won't shut off. So, who actually benefits from this? Patients who already respond to methylphenidate but struggle with things like afternoon crashes, rebound irritability, or inconsistent coverage across the day. That's where this fits. And if that's not your problem, this probably isn't your solution. Now here's the part that for a lot of people decides everything before the clinical conversation even starts. Cost. Because the biggest difference between these two medications might not be how they work, it might be whether you can actually get them. And most reviews don't say that clearly, so I will. Azstarys is brand only. No generic anytime soon. Like, not until 2037. Which means without solid insurance, this gets really expensive. Like, almost $600 a month expensive. And for a lot of patients and families, that's not just a detail, that's the decision. Now compare that to Focalin XR. It has generic versions, which are much more accessible cost-wise. So before we even get into which one is better, you have to acknowledge something real. Sometimes the best medication on paper isn't the one you can actually use. Now, to be fair, medication shortages have made access not as simple as it used to be. So in my experience, Azstarys has actually been easier to find than some generics lately. So availability is improving. Affordability, not as much. But there is a manufacturer savings card, which can knock the cost down to $15 a month. And it's worth checking out if you decide to go with this. So here's how I frame it clinically. For some patients, that smoother experience is absolutely worth it. For others, you can get most of the way there by optimizing Focalin XR. Adjust the dose, adjust the timing, maybe you want to add a small booster in there. And here's the ultimate reminder. Newer doesn't automatically mean better. Now in this case, the delivery system is a real innovation. That smoother curve shows up in real life. In the longer duration, you feel that quickly. But if those differences don't actually change your day in a meaningful way, then you're not getting much. You're just paying for a different experience. And that's not always the same thing as a better one. So where do I actually land on this? I like it. I've been using Azstarys more in my practice recently. And in the right patient, you can feel the difference. Not because it's stronger, because the day just holds together a bit better. Less of that afternoon drop off. Less of that switch flips and everything falls apart feeling. It's just smoother. But I'm not reaching for it across the board. And that's not because I don't trust the medication. It's because not everyone can realistically access it yet. So my experience with it is still building. Not from uncertainty, but from how often I can actually use it. Right now, this isn't a universal upgrade. It's a targeted one. And when you match it to the right problem, it works really well. This is one of those medications that doesn't necessarily change how strong the effect is. It changes how the day feels. And for some patients, that's exactly what's been missing. Hopefully this video helped you if your doctor brought Azstarys up as an option. And if you want to see how this fits in the bigger picture of ADHD treatment, well, I put together a breakdown of the top 5 ADHD medications that I reach for most often in my practice. And more importantly, why they made that list. Azstarys isn't on that one yet, but it's getting close. So if you want to understand how these actually stack up side by side, that's the next video to watch, and then it's linked down below. Until next time, be safe and be well.